I'm Rob Pinkerton. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for Seismic. I joined in April, so I'm pretty new to the role, but I'm not new to Seismic. I have been a customer twice, and I have also worked in this space either making, marketing, or running like large-scale sales and marketing systems for about 25 years. I've worked with a lot of people in enablement. I think the role that the people in this room have is increasingly becoming more critical in the age of AI. We're going to talk a lot about that. That's the reason why I came. But the first thing that's on my mind when I come to a new company in a role like this is like, what do our customers think? How do I get that information? We commissioned a survey that I'm going to reference throughout this presentation. We released it a week ago, if you're interested, but just where we went to 350 revenue enablement leaders, from CIOs to CROs to heads of ops, and just asked them, like, what's going on? Like a whole bunch of questions, but kind of the main goal we were trying to get to and try to understand is like, are you guys, like, do people feel like they're using AI strategically now? Like, like what is the story there? And not surprisingly, the answer was mostly no, despite, heroic efforts at every stage of the customer experience to engage. Like tons of projects. And I should say I came to Seismic after 4 years at Oracle in product development at Oracle. We're in the center of the AI world. So I have like a pretty decent idea of like what's happening across the enterprise when it comes to AI. So I can't say that I was super surprised because I am also tuned into the headlines that dominate our life right now. Like it is, and this is not like a tech cycle that I've been super used to, right? Like the doom or boom narrative that dominates AI is unlike anything I've experienced. I mean, like back to the .com days, there was a lot of boom. There was Y2K. There was a lot of doom. But usually with like new technology cycles, there's a lot of hype and there's a lot of operational grit, small wins, small losses, killer apps emerge. We're 3 years into this since ChatGPT came out, and it's still just doom and boom all the time, right? I mean, you saw like the Pope came out a couple weeks ago with a 43,000 word encyclical. I'd never even heard that word before, encyclical, about warning about AI. That is not a social media post, right? Like that's a book. And the Pope has never warned anyone about the products I make. Like it's a weird dynamic, I'll be honest. I had my son graduate from high school last week, and we had a really good commencement speaker. It was an author, and was funny, and kind of those kind of good speakers. But the number one applause line that he got was when he said, "AI is not the answer." And everyone, kids, parents, everyone, like it's a weird dynamic out there for technology, right? Eric Schmidt, CEOs, they're getting booed at college commencements, but there's also a lot of boom, right? I mean, the 9 largest companies in the world right now, between 1 trillion and 4 trillion in value, all powered by AI. They got a new addition on Friday, right? SpaceX went public. They raised $850 billion. That's a lot of money. There'll be a couple more with Anthropic and OpenAI. And these guys, they have the money. They think they have the solutions. They're trying to solve every problem under the sun. They are boom, boom, boom all the time. So, that's the way it is right now. It's been 3 years of this. But I guess I'll say, who in this room has been asked many times to just do AI for the sake of doing AI, right? I have, so it's okay. I've done it everywhere for years now. It's okay to say it. It does kind of feel like AI has become more of the assignment rather than the opportunity, and that's kind of how I want to frame the start of this discussion today, because I'm a technology optimist. I believe in the power of what AI can do, but I just want to start by saying AI isn't the strategy, right? It is not the strategy. It's not the main character in your story. Your customer is the main character in this story, right? And it's pretty simple. It's actually kind of comforting if you think about that, right? So all the same things we've always cared about: revenue outcomes, trusted relationships, buying confidence, expansion of the business, keeping your customers. Like this is what matters. This is what matters to Seismic, and AI is still important, but it's going to be a supporting character in the story, and we don't want to lose sight of that, because honestly, I think the headlines can sometimes make it feel like the world is closing in around us. Like there's FOMO, a lot of fear of missing out. There's kind of fear that you're going to go do the wrong thing as we race into this innovation. But I think like the most important thing I want to start this off with is like your role is becoming more critical. And this is kind of my perspective from Big Oracle, seeing how many people in tech, in roles that are tech enabled, are sitting on the sidelines, right? Like, whereas enablement is like right in the middle of all the trouble. Like you guys are in the middle of all the action between revenue, technology, customer. And I think you should look at that as an opportunity, right? It's an opportunity to strategically lead how organizations meet the opportunity of AI. And step into that role. To do that, and kind of the frame of this discussion is really being able to respond to what the C-suites, the boards, everyone is really hoping to get from AI, what we're seeing. I do think that's going to have to become more and more important in what we do in terms of our decisions. And so back to that survey that I mentioned, when we asked 350 leaders in this space, like what are your top priorities? Like again, it's kind of comforting. Right? It's things that we've always heard about. This isn't like really newsflash, except for that AI is not number one, right? Like we kind of feel like it should be number one, but it's like speed to revenue, measurement, retention, and then you get to AI adoption, and obstacles are fairly predictable and ones we know, integration, manual work, like all the, things are too slow. But then interestingly, AI is both the opportunity, the priority and the obstacle, right? And so the priorities are clear, but the systems required to execute against them just simply aren't clear. And so, as this shows up, and as we kind of think about how AI, both at Seismic, and how we're developing software, how we're thinking about bringing it to market, how you use it, we're really focusing on, what is going on at that, executive level of the business. How are people thinking about this? What do boards think about? So this is just a survey from PwC that they do every year on like what's most important to boards. There's kind of a comparison that you can make or whatever. But and think of this. So I'm going to talk about growth, efficiency, and innovation. But when it comes to our roles here, you can, you can almost think of it as confidence, trust, and patience. Right? Like the confidence that you're going to grow. Right now, CEOs say 70% are not confident in their 12-month pipeline. I think it's a pretty extraordinary thing. Say it was about less than half that a year ago. In terms of efficiency, they're all, there's like a lot of stakeholder trust concerns that are coming as they're trying to drive efficiency into the business. What does that mean? Like, what does that mean when you're trying to drive efficiency with AI? Well, you generate some trust issues that we're going to talk about. And then, innovation, we'll talk a little bit about how obviously innovation is ahead of execution, right? And that's kind of that first point that we make. So this is just sort of the frame for the next 20 minutes. We'll just talk about these three areas, how we're thinking about it, how I'd recommend you guys think about it, and kind of what we're going to do to help you get ready. So let's talk about growth. It is becoming harder to capture, and there's a number of reasons for that. AI is potentially a accelerant or a decelerant, if that's a real word. So historically, how companies have structured for growth for the last 15 or 20 years is around sales, marketing, and service, right? Like pretty simple. We're all pretty comfortable with that. Sales is responsible for winning customer business. Service is responsible for keeping those customers happy, and marketing is responsible for finding more customers for sales to win and for service to keep happy, right? And this is what we have done. This is how software has been built, largely with these sort of three different scripts in mind, right? Like for 10 to 15 years, and there's been a lot of growth around this, and it has worked rather well. But each group has, focused on their own goals, their own tools, and the problem with that is we optimize for the departments, not for how customers actually think, how they actually make their decisions. And these different scripts, these different kind of, choreographies don't translate cleanly to the customer when the customer gets empowered with new technology like AI, right? Because remember, they're the first ones that use this stuff, and they decide they're not going to go to Google search anymore, right? They decide they're going to go make decisions on their own. And so this is the fundamental problem with growth right now, because a lot of what we expected from those three silos working was this idea that self-service would fill in the gaps, right? And for years in my roles, I would talk about this, like Gartner says it, McKinsey says it. Everyone would say buyers want more self-service. They want to work across all this. They want to decide for themselves. They don't want to talk to sales. They don't want to go out, they don't want to leave their house, right? And so, we've relied upon that, and then something changed, right? Like the internet got crowded, right? Like it's really crowded right now. Security and privacy concerns, they got real. Spam, intrusive advertising, kind of have spoiled a lot of the self-service experience. And so what we're seeing is that what we once thought we could rely on for self-service is leaning more into purchase regret, right? And this is sort of a very big problem. Maybe we're not talking as much in the context of AI, because AI makes it seem like agents are going to do everything. But really, what we're seeing is more content, more noise, more signals, less trust. I mean, who's going online right now and it's like an elegant experience anymore, right? I mean, how many clicks do you have to get through before you've done your geolocation, confirmations and your password requests and your login requests and your cookie requests and a couple pop-up advertisements? Like, it's not. Like, it is a saturated experience in the self-service world. Well, that's showing in terms of customer experience. It's showing in terms of business opportunity to grow and less trust and a lot more noise. So what does that mean for everyone here? Well, in the world of infinite information, trusted human relationships become a lot more valuable. It's kind of the anti-AI expectation, right? We're always talking about humans and AI, which is weird. I don't think I ever used the word human in business until like a couple years ago. But like people actually, I think, are looking for more human contact. That's what we expect to happen. And your sales and distribution channels are going to be increasingly more important, right? Like, and when I say sales and distribution, I mean anyone who has a customer relationship. And you're in financial services, and it's an advisor, or on the completely different industry in tech, and you're in sales. Like these roles have sometimes gotten a bad rep in the era of digital self-service. People have kind of said they don't want to be with them. Now they do, right? And that's it's becoming that's good news, I think, for the people in this room, because you already know how important those direct relationships are, right? They help drive faster decisions. They help, with stronger renewals, stronger relationships, deeper expansion, and I think the rest of the enterprise is starting to feel this now too. Maybe you already know this, right? Maybe you've already figured this out. I think some companies already have, because there's no function closer to that sales and distribution channel than the folks that are in the room now, right? And so that's an opportunity, and that's how we're looking at this as an opportunity. How can you enable that channel better than anyone else? And I think you're probably hearing this from the top more as more like for Hayden's show, is like more growth, no more headcount, right? No more resources, right? But it's still, the meaning is like this channel is more and more important as we grow. And so this is a big theme for growth. It's a big theme for this discussion, for this all day. It's one I just hope you walk away with, is the opportunity is actually not in the technology, it's in the human connection through the direct sales channel. So let's listen to a 30-year-old, $15 billion online company that I didn't even know had a sales channel until I saw this video. It makes sense now that I've seen it, but let's have a look at Expedia Group.
At Expedia Group, we really focus on two metrics: making teams more efficient and more effective. We looked at our top performers in the team and searched out the bits that they were really good at, and really focused on areas within the team where we could help them get more efficient or more productive.
If you really want sales teams to shut out all the rest of the noise and listen to what you're saying and what's important, then you need to think beyond just a standard learning course. It's more than that to get their attention.
Because we're using that hyper-personalized coaching that we could increase win rates by 13% in the test that we run.
Okay, so those are great numbers. But the first thing I want to point out is that is Ernst's real shirt. And when we did this deck, the design team put that image, I guess, to evoke travel, and the gondolier is wearing the same shirt. It was just total coincidence, but I looked at that and I was like, what's going on? Like, why did you do that? And you know what their immediate response was? They said, oh, we'll use AI to change Ernst's shirt. I said, no, No. You can't do that. Ernst will never trust us if we're doing like wardrobe changes on his gray shirt. But it gets to this next point that we're going to have to make around efficiency, right? That efficiency is fragmented right now. Efficiency is, it's interesting, like there's all kind of new things to do, but it does become like a big trust issue, right? And like at every point, like maybe you didn't imagine like changing Ernst's shirt. There is a lot of interesting opportunities, right? It's certainly maybe cheaper than getting a different Getty image or whatever. I don't know, but like the point is like efficiency is coming up in every discussion, but we always have to pair efficiency with this idea of trust. So let's just talk a little bit about like what's going on with efficiency, because all right, as I mentioned, those kind of silos, the different choreographies, the scripts, like organizations optimize in those silos, and something subtle happened, right? What happened? We built a stack, not systems, right? And everybody has amazing stacks. In certain fields, you can like get awards, like marquees are like a whole thing, like marketing teams build these like giant stacks of all the technology they've integrated. SaaS made it easy for any team to buy the tech they needed quickly to go drive the business. Sales bought for sales, marketing for marketing, service for service. A lot of times I done without thinking about that shared source of truth, or sometimes without even involving IT, which is, probably something we're going to see IT getting a lot more involved in. Do you guys see a lot more IT in your world today? Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about that too. A lot of head nods. Anyway, each of these tools has been useful, right? They've been super helpful, but now, as things are sort of shifting, there's this secular shift in technology, every one of these is adding AI capability on top of it, right? We think, I don't know, sometimes I think it's just alphabet inflation, like all you have to do is add 2 letters to everything, everywhere, and it's like called innovation. But whether it is or not, like that doesn't mean the system is becoming smarter, right? Especially if it's a stack. And so you'll hear a lot of the big CRM companies talk about this concept of revenue leakage, because what they've realized through this siloing is that, across that entire customer experience, those silos mean money is just falling out that shouldn't be hard to acquire, right? And we see this too in enablement, right? In siloed go-to-market, it's like, inconsistent buyer journeys, they can slow down the deal velocity. Right? Inconsistent messaging, that means lower win rates. That means reduced differentiation. And those execution gaps, really kind of become their own breakage between the strategy and the field. And so, I think, again, this is something you guys have had to deal with for years in enablement. You think about it all the time, but now everyone's sort of zeroing in on like, oh, wow, what does happen across all these different systems? It's leaking. And so AI is probably not going to fix this. It is going to expose the cracks, though. That is a good thing. It can also accelerate the effects if we're not careful, and that's the thing we got to kind of be cognizant of, because that effect, those internal effects are not just, those effects are not just internal, right? Like I mentioned, the buyer regret earlier, like 1.8% more likely to regret a purchase. And I think that's so the small print's meaningful. 43% of digital buyers experience high regret, but it's only 21% if there's actually sales involved, right? It's a good stat, right, for the folks in this room. Efficiency can create that regret, right? And it can recreate a different kind of cost. It doesn't show up in like the SaaS invoice, right? But it actually shows up in your renewal rates. Also, just kind of on the technology additions, this Forrester, 75% of decision makers will see more technical debt this year. That's a lot of technical debt at a time when everybody is trying to, figure out how to consolidate or realign costs. We're actually adding a lot more technology to the system or to the stack, and we're just going to have to be super cognizant of that. And we'll talk a little bit about the CIO in a second, because we don't want to add complexity to the stack, and we got to think about the system. And I don't think you're going to be alone on this. This is more data from that research survey that we looked at, or that we did. The center of gravity for technology buying is moving up, right? Like there are more people getting engaged. What this slide shows is like, who are the most engaged people in just an enablement opportunity? Like who's caring, who's looking. I mean, it's the CRO is at the top, executive leadership. We're seeing people from heads of product, CIOs, CEOs getting engaged, trying to figure out what's going on here. Largely, I think it's less to do with like us than it is that growth challenge I mentioned before. It's like, oh, sales channel is getting more important. But there's an efficiency aspect of it too, because now IT is involved as kind of a number 3 participant in all this. Our traditional buying group, they're still engaged. They just, they have a lot more company in the room. You guys are going to have a lot more company in the room. Where we are building our business to give you more support so that you can handle all the more executive interest. But in every interaction, right, these roles are going to expect more from you. And whether that's in the personalization, consistency, relevance, execution, and that's an opportunity. And it's also an opportunity for me to kind of emphasize this point from the last section, like your sales channel is still that last mile of trust, right? Sales and distribution channel is going to be critical. We want to be prepared for them. We want to help them to be more credible, more trusted, and be equipped and proven, right? Just kind of saying the same thing over again, but it's super important when we think of it. So, I mentioned the CIO. Do you guys, are there any folks from IT in here? You don't have to acknowledge if you're not. Okay, so there's a few, so good. You guys are going to become super important in this discussion, increasingly more important because, there's a lot of reasons why IT is getting more engaged, right? The first and foremost is like, it's a great era for IT. Like the meaning of all of this AI is IT is having to re-architect enterprise systems. They're investing in tokens. They're investing in agentic. There is an opportunity to do a next level enterprise architecture, and so they're having a lot of fun. But man, they do not want to screw up revenue or the customer experience, right? And they are going to need help, and they need to make sure that the quality of AI is accurate and that they can measure the success of what they're doing, and they need to understand kind of data and security concerns. And so it's going to be really important for the people in this room to like buddy up with their partners in IT to be a good Sherpa guide for across the entire customer experience, because you can do that. And I think they're going to come in, they're looking at budget too. That's another thing. We want to help justify what we've been doing. I think it's, like I said, I was at Oracle, and there's a lot of parts of the IT world that are sitting on the sidelines and they're feeling pretty exposed. It's not the folks in enablement. You're in the middle of all the trouble, but sometimes it just feels weird when new people come in and they're like, what's this do? Or what do you do? Or all that. It's like, so we don't want to be defensive. We want to be like, understand where they're coming from. And I think it's going to be a big opportunity, but it's also the way to think about it. Like when we think about efficiency and we think about the issues of trust that can be created with our customers across the enterprise, it's a change management problem, right? That is what this is. Like it's not about cutting tools, not about cutting people. It's not a technology problem. It's a change management problem that we're facing right now. Everyone in this room who's been in sales engagement knows this, right? You have to change. You have to be change agents, right? Every strategic shift, every new go-to-market, every time something goes differently through your direct channel, that's your jam, right? That is what enablement is all about. And I think you're in a great position to reframe all of these enterprise problems in a way that's very focused on the customer experience, on building that trust. And it's up to you to shape technology strategy and work closely with our IT partners. So let's hear a little bit from Elastic. They're a $1.7 billion company, just 15 years old. How they kind of just jumped at this way. Let's go to the video, please.
Buying and selling is multi-threaded, it's competitive, it's hard to get consensus.
Before, everything was just very scattered, and most importantly, it was not measurable.
And we have to be fast because the markets that we compete in are moving at lightning speed.
I think of sales enablement as a strategic lever so that sales becomes a competitive advantage.
Successful enablement at Elastic means moving the needle for the business. It means making it easier to sell, making it faster, and it means delivering business results.
Okay, so I'll acknowledge, I like that the team put these guys in the efficiency section with a 500% growth in sales. That's kind of a flex, but it's, they go hand in hand, right? Like when you think of a system, not a stack, growth and efficiency are going to go hand in hand. Okay, so real quick, let me get to innovation. Innovation, and I kind of mentioned innovation as like patience, right? Because innovation is outpacing execution right now. Like there's a major FOMO phenomenon going on with AI. There's a lot of pressure to use this stuff. We all feel it, but it only creates an advantage when the organization can activate it at market speed, even though everything feels like product cycles, market shifts, expectations for customers are going faster. Your customers don't experience your roadmap. They only experience how well your teams can bring that innovation to life. And a lot of times, innovation is going to require patience. It's going to require, a complex understanding of everything that goes into changing the way you go to the business and evolve to these different sources of truth that can start to drift, right? Like AI can generate more content, but it can't generate truth, right? And this is, we found in our study that top priority for revenue leaders is speed to revenue. Great. But the biggest concern is the quality of AI and its accuracy. These things are at opposite odds of each other. So we got to be patient. We got to kind of move forward with this stuff. This is a big part of where we're focused, right? Seismic's an innovator. It's always been an innovator. The risk isn't that you don't have enough information. The risk is that you have too many competing versions of it. And everybody's excited about the agentic layer, right? This new AI user experience. We've spent 20 years making computers understand what we want by tapping in forms, by filling out spreadsheets, by learning new coding languages. And now we don't have to do that, right? They can understand us with our primary senses, right? They can understand us through touch, through talking, even like eye gestures. It's amazing, but you can't just drop a bunch of AI interfaces on top without knowing what's right? Because AI is going to hallucinate its way through your entire go-to-market, and that's not innovation. That's a problem, right? And so we are going to have to be patient. We are going to have to explain the complexity. Not every Claude demo is a reason to throw out 20 years of progress, and it's more of an opportunity to show how it can elevate that 20 years of progress. And there's a lot of detail to that. This is where we're focused, right? We're focused on sort of like, how do you get to that new layer where we can interact with computers without having to be a computer? That's nice, but without giving up all the stuff underneath. And so this is a big part of what the session, I'm not getting a lot of love from the click, there we go. The session after me with Anthony is going to talk to is how are we building our product so that you can govern and protect and innovate on top of what we already have to get into this new layer. And it is racing ahead. This is just more kind of external stats. 70% of companies plan to deploy AI this year, in the next 2 years. 21% have a model to actually govern it. Something's not going to add up here, right? And hopefully that'll be your competitors, not you guys. But this is just something to keep in mind. So what we're gaming for is this, right? AI-driven sales organizations are going to be 40% faster in stage velocity in the next couple of years. Pretty simple concept, but if you trust your sales channel, it's going to have a huge impact on growth. It's going to have a huge impact on efficiency. So let's do one last customer video, and then I'll close. This is an original innovator, right? You're back to being patient. Cisco's been around 42 years. They're in multiple markets, multiple market shifts. Let's hear from Cisco real quick.
We have actually never innovated as fast as we are right now, but it's very hard to take the rapid velocity of innovation and get that syndicated to all of our 965,000 plus customers in a very compressed amount of time. It's just very hard to do. What we're doing with Seismic is essentially allowing the company to operate at the clock speed that we're innovating. It is the core backbone of how we educate our customers and partner ecosystems in a very effective way.
Yeah, 30,000 sellers, that's a lot. And back to kind of all kinds of new people showing up in the enablement world. That's a chief product officer from a Fortune 100. That's not a typical profile that you would expect, but they're seeing the opportunity and they're seeing the innovation. Okay, so let's think about this in terms of the maturity of your organization. This is something that our consulting group puts together. it's not just about adopting technology faster, it's prioritizing for the real impact. We can be reactive, we want to be orchestrated, right? Like that's the goal. I do think enablement, we've always supported the business, we've always been central to the business. It is a dare to be great opportunity to start shaping the business. That's how we're thinking about it. That's how I hope you will think about it. As we step into just an ever more strategic role, I think we can adapt with AI. We talk about AI, we talk about the advantage, everyone's got to talk about the advantage of artificial intelligence. The walk away take though, please, like it's the real intelligence of your people, of the systems that you've already built, aligned, trusted, empowered. That's what's going to really matter. That's what AI needs, right? And so I think intuitively we all know that. This is what we're focused on at Seismic. That's what you're going to hear throughout the day to understand your customers, to be successful, to prepare at scale with the right ways to govern all these new innovations, and to execute in the flow of work like you always have. If you need a couple tips kind of walking away from today, like, okay, great, that was nice and all, but what do I go do? Like, organize around the customer, not AI. Like, it's okay to push back. Like, I feel sometimes like we've been hypnotized on AI, like, just keep droning forward. No, push back for your customer, always, everywhere, anywhere you can. And don't be afraid to influence how the business runs. The business needs you to do that. The business needs you to speak up and to explain how the business runs and to find where the experience breaks, not just find where technology can be used. And finally, look for your IT partners. They are going to be incredibly important in the AI era for your careers and for the success of the business.